Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. And tonight I'm going to talk about something a little bit different from my first couple of videos where I was talking about headphones. I want to go back a little bit farther up the signal chain here to the amp section. I've got two headphone amps, both made by the same company, that kind of look similar on paper in some ways, but are in a lot of ways very different. And I'm hoping I can answer a few questions, solve a couple of mysteries about these for you, especially if you're a first-time headphone amp buyer and you're doing some research and you're trying to figure out maybe which one of these is the better one for you. Or maybe if you've got one and you're trying to decide maybe if I want to pick up the second one to have two. Does it make sense for me to do that? Why would I want two of these? Well, stick around and find out. All right, so the two amps I'm talking about in question here are the Schiit Asgard 3 solid state amp and the Valhalla 2 all tube amp. Both amps have a lot of similarities in some ways. For example, they both put out similar amounts of power, which is to say, in summary, a lot. They both have plenty of power. They will both run high impedance headphones with ease. I've got a pair of 600 ohm headphones. Both of them run those headphones either in low or high gain settings without any problem. That's another thing they both have is they both have low and high gain settings for the amps, which comes in handy, depending on how loud or softly you like to listen to stuff, and depending on what you're plugging into these amps, you may want one of those settings versus the other. They have the same size case, which is sort of the standard mid-size Schiit Audio case, and they both come in either silver or black finishes. The silvers cost, I think, about $30 more than the black versions now. It's just more expensive for Schiit to produce these in silver than in black. They both support single-ended headphones only. There's no option for doing balanced headphones out of these. Some Schiit's products will offer both. These are single-ended headphones only. So if you're a big fan of balanced headphones, you probably want to look at some of their other offerings or maybe another manufacturer. They both have pre-outs, so you can use them with powered speakers, which is a handy thing. And they are both made in the USA, which I think is a great thing. From there, the similarities kind of taper off pretty quickly and you get into some differences. So a couple of notes on both of these. Both of these products, the Asgard and the Valhalla, the Asgard for sure. The Valhalla, I think, was the Asgard was the first product that Schiit ever announced, that they ever came out with, which was, 12, 13, maybe 14 years ago. They've been around a pretty long time. I think maybe since 2010, 2011, so long time, right? 12, 13 years probably at this point. The Valhalla's been around for a lot longer, but it's only had 2 iterations as opposed to 3. And only a couple of months ago, in a live stream, Jason Stoddard actually answered a question from somebody saying, hey, is the Valhalla 2 going to be updated anytime soon? And the short answer was no, because of the amount of parts that are available that he originally wanted to use for a Valhalla 3. So the Asgard 3 has been around for a couple of years. Maybe it'll be updated in another couple of years. The Valhalla 2 is going to continue as it is for a couple of years. So with either of these products, I think you're pretty safe in realizing that if you're watching this review now here in 2023, the comments here and the specs on these are going to be pretty identical for at least a couple of years. So make of that what you will. The Asgard 3 and the Valhalla 2, again, the differences get a little wider the more you look into them. So the Asgard 3, solid state, class AB, with their fancy schmancy continuity circuit, which really works very well. It's a great sounding amp. Valhalla 2 is an old school OTL, output transformer less vacuum tube amp. All right, so they couldn't be more different in that respect. The Asgard 3 starting price is $249. Valhalla 2 costs, its starting price is $399. Now, with the Asgard, there's multiple permutations of that, and this is where it gets a little confusing even to somebody like me who owns one of these. Because it's a modular amp, whereas the Valhalla 2 is just an amp. It's just a headphone amp. You can't add modular cards to it. But the Asgard has a couple of options for modular cards that you can add to it. Either when you buy it or later you can upgrade either yourself, or you can have Schiit Audio install them through a special program they offer. So the most basic card they offer is like $100 for an ESS DAC card that goes in the back of it, right? So if you don't have this card, you just use the single-ended inputs on the back to plug in your DAC, whatever source or CD player, whatever, tape deck, whatever you want to plug into the thing, right? You also have an option of adding a phono card, or at least you did. For some reason right now, as of May 8th here, 2023, when I'm making this video, they used to offer both of these options when you bought the amp. You could select these in the checkout process, and they also offered a second option, which was for a multi-bit DAC, which is their higher end DAC, and that's a $200 option. But for some reason on the site, when I'm looking today, they only offer the ESS DAC option. However, to take this in the Twilight Zone, if in the upgrade section of their website, you can still find the phono preamp card and the multi-bit card, as well as the standard DAC card available for the Asgard. So even though for some reason you can't buy the phono card or the multi-bit card new with the amp, it looks like you can still upgrade to them later, maybe? It's a little weird. I mean, before I bought the Asgard, I'd probably contact somebody at Schiit and ask them what's up with that. I don't honestly know. But in any case, you've got options with the Asgard that you don't have with the Valhalla 2. So if you're at a premium for space, or you just really want one little box that's going to do it all, well, that's kind of your choices made for you right there. The Asgard is what you want, okay? Some other differences between these two. Both of these amps, I'll say, are very versatile. They work with a wide variety of headphones because they have both lower and higher gain settings, all right? The Asgard is more versatile, I have to say, than the Valhalla, however. You can use it with IMs, you can use it with planar headphones, you can use it with high impedance cans. Again, 300, 250 ohms, 300 ohms, 600 ohms, doesn't care. It's got more than enough power to run those, no problem. The Valhalla will work with all of those, except for the planars. I have a pair of Hi-Fi Man planars. I haven't bothered, frankly, trying with those with that amp yet, because everyone I've talked to, every forum posting I've seen, every review from every reviewer has tried it, has said, just don't. They don't play with planars well. So that's the one thing. If you're a fan of planar headphones, you're going to want to go for the Asgard as opposed to Valhalla. Another thing about the Asgard versus the Valhalla, the Asgard is the epitome of a low maintenance amp. I leave mine turned on all the time. A lot of people will complain about the Schiit products. Well, they don't put the power button on the front of it, man, where it's easier to get. And yeah, I agree. It'd be nice if they had the power button on the front. They're never going to do it. They're always going to put them on the back. But for the Asgard, I don't care. I just leave it turned on all the time. And maybe it costs me $1 a month in electricity to run it. I don't care. So that may or may not bother you. It doesn't bother me. The Valhalla, on the other hand, it runs, and the other thing about the Asgard is it runs very slightly warm to the touch. Again, I never turn mine off. I put my hand right over the little heat holes on the top here as I'm doing this video, and it's just barely warm to the touch, right? It's just barely, maybe 5 or 10 degrees warmer than room temperature, right? So it's really not a big deal. The Valhalla, on the other hand, it runs very hot, like too hot to touch it. I mean, the case gets really hot. In fact, the volume knob after a couple of hours gets pretty toasty. I have to turn it by the very edges of the knob. It seems like, to adjust the volume after a couple of hours. So it's not, if you have like young kids or like, you know, a little puppy or a kitten running around that you're afraid may get near it, this may not be the amp for you. And there's processes and procedures for running the tube amp. And a lot of audiophiles like that. They're like, oh, processes and procedures? Tell me more. The more inconvenient, the better it must sound. And we'll get to that in a little bit. There's some truth to that with this amp for sure. But like to turn it on, I actually keep the headphones unplugged from it, right? And when I get ready to turn it on, I flip it on in the back with the power switches in the back, right? And then I wait 30 seconds, right? And then I plug the headphones in, and then I'll turn the volume up, and then I can start using it, right? And when I'm ready to shut it down, I'll actually turn the volume all the way down, pull the headphone plug out of it, and then shut it down. And the thing you'll find that's interesting about the Asgard is, you know, the little white LED power light, after you shut the unit off, it'll stay glowing for 30 minutes or so. It takes a long time for that current to actually leave the amp. So, I mean, yeah, and again, it gets hot, it stays hot when you're using it. So it's not kid-friendly, pet-friendly. All right, so it probably sounds at this point that you must be thinking, like, why does this guy even own a Valhalla? Why would he do that? Well, frankly, because it does a lot of amazing things that, as much as I love the Asgard, and I recommend the Asgard wholeheartedly to anybody who's got $249 and wants to get a really good, very versatile headphone amp that'll run any kind of headphone you want to throw at it without even blinking. I really love a lot of the stuff that the Asgard does. I really love the stuff that tubes do. The Asgard is very fast, it's very articulate, it's very precise, very punchy, and I love that. And the Valhalla, while it's not and even Jason Stoddard had said this, and I would agree, it's not your typical tube amp, it's not like a syrupy sound, it doesn't have like a rolled off treble. I mean, there's plenty of detail in the treble, but it does some of the really cool traditional things with, you know, all tube amps and even tube preamps and stuff, is that it gives you a really accentuated stereo image and soundstage. And that's cool. I love that. And it excels in tonal accuracy and textural cleanliness and accuracy, especially like with human voices and with acoustic instruments, percussion, any kind of like real instrument, especially. And if you're a fan of like vocals, particularly female vocals, I mean, it's a transcendent experience sometimes listening to the Valhalla with a set of high impedance headphones, like a set of Sennheiser HD6XXs. Fantastic with that amp. If you got a pair of 600 ohm Beyer Dynamics like I do, the DT880 Pro 600 ohm, absolutely astonishing. You will adore this amp and will be constantly mesmerized in what you could do. So both these amps really make all music sound great, right? And that's the thing that they both do, but they both have their, you know, certain strengths, and that's the big strength with the Valhalla, and that's why I recommend getting one, because it gives all of your music this whole different sound, you know, that you don't get just, you know, straight from a single amp. And variety, I think, is the spice of life. It's a good thing, and especially a good kind of variety like this is great. So the Asgard is more of the stuff I listen to every day if I'm watching movies through my computer, if I'm just kind of casually listening to stuff, you know, I'll or a lot of intense listening too, I'll listen to the Asgard. But when I'm wanting that special treat, especially like on a Friday night or like a weekend night or something like that, a Saturday night, I've just, you know, got nothing else going on, and I want to just really listen to some music and just get engrossed in it, the Valhalla really pulls you in and takes you in. It's a very special product, and I highly recommend it. But here's where I come down on these two amps. If you're getting your very first headphone amp, get the Asgard 3. That's what I did. I don't regret that decision at all. And if you later want to get into some of the tube stuff and you want to go just dive in the deep end, Valhalla 2 is a very safe choice because it's got a lot of the articulation and the speed that you would expect out of a really good solid state, you know, but it's got that just really lovely upper mid-range and treble stuff, treble especially, and it just excels at tonal and textural accuracy. I really love it. So get the solid state one first, get the Asgard 3 first, and then get the Valhalla 2. Oh, and one final note on both of these is that you don't need an expensive DAC to make either of these amps sing. I'm using a Schiit Modi 3 Plus, which I bought new when I bought the Asgard 3 a couple of years ago. And it works fantastic. I'm sure if I had maybe the Modi Multi-Bit 2 or especially the Bifrost, which is, that's $800 now for the Bifrost 264, much higher price tag than either of these amps now. I'm sure I'd get even more because I'm more of a source first kind of guy. But the thing with DACs these days is the DAC game has advanced so far that even a $100, $200 DAC will if you pair it with the right amp and right pair of headphones, it'll really sing. So that's a great thing too, is, I didn't feel bad about getting the second amp as opposed to spending more money on a more expensive DAC, because you don't really need it with either of these. Yes, you'll get more benefit, you get a better DAC, you'll get, that better source, better sound. That's great, but you don't have to have it. So don't feel like you need to. I hope this has been helpful in some way. Maybe it's opened up more questions than answers, but both of these amps are great. Again, Asgard first, get your solid state game on first, and then when you're ready to jump into tubes, you can go with the Valhalla 2 if you want to just go straight to it. And if you don't want to go all the way, they also make a fantastic product called the Valley. I think it's now called the Valley 2 Plus. It's a hybrid. It's a little hybrid amp, 2 preamp section, but a solid state section. And I've heard and read nothing but great things about that. And it's a lot less than the Valhalla as well. So you got options. Options are great. Variety is the spice of life. Anyway, hope this has been helpful again, and good luck to you. Enjoy.